Well, with me now is the Labour Party National Campaign Coordinator and MP for Birmingham Ladywood, Shabana Mahmood. Very good morning to you. So what's your verdict on the night so far from Labour's point of view?
I think this is a very, very strong set of results for the Labour Party. It shows that we are on course for a majority Labour government at the next general election. As you've been telling your viewers, we've been winning all over the country, taking areas that we've not held before, not since before 1997. Medway in Kent, we've been winning in the Midlands, in Stoke, and also up in the north where we've taken the Middlesbrough mayoralty. So if you look at the spread of the results in the areas that we're winning all over the country, and I think that puts us on track for a majority at the next election.
Well, yes, and that's a big claim, because in order to win a majority at the next general election, Labour need an enormous swing. It'll be a bigger swing than Tony Blair managed to pull off in 1997. Are you really sure you're on track for that?
We've never been complacent about the scale of the challenge that we faced. 2019 was one of our worst ever defeats in our whole history, and people had written the Labour Party off for a generation or more. So under Keir's leadership, we have got ourselves not only back on the pitch, but we are winning voters back in the areas that we need to win that next general election. If you take these results and you map them onto constituencies, you'll see that we are winning in seats like Stevenage, in Grimsby, in Hartlepool. We'd also be winning both of the seats in Dudley, Dudley North and Dudley South. And to take those seats at a general election, we need a 15% swing. So we are achieving the scale of swings that we need in order to win the next general.
And yet, talking to Greg Hands, sitting in that chair in the last hour, he said, before Tony Blair's win, Labour gained 1,661 seats. The Conservatives lost more than 1,900 seats. He said, I don't think we're anything like that from these results so far.
Well, the context is a little bit different between 1997 and today, but with these results, we are on course to be the largest party in local government. We are on course to have our best local elections performance since 1997. And I would say that actually does put us on course for a majority at the next election. And the flip side of that is, if the Tories are losing the sorts of numbers of councillors that even Greg Hands appears to be admitting might happen this morning, then I think that shows the danger that Rishi Sunak is in, and the fact that this change of leader hasn't actually resulted in a change of fortune for the Tory party.
Local elections are different, though, aren't they? I mean, you take councils like Plymouth, there are a huge number of local issues going on there. The controversy over tree felling in the town, for starters. Generally, the turnout's lower as well. So you can point to individual results and you can pick out wins that you're pleased about, but that doesn't really translate in a general election, does it?
Well, we have to go where the data shows us, and it is, it's perfectly reasonable for us to map these results onto constituencies. Your analysts would be doing that if I wasn't doing it. And what they are showing is that we are achieving, in some of these constituencies, huge swings, far bigger than what we actually need in order to take them in a general election. Plymouth Moorview is very much a constituency that's in our sights for that general election, gets us into majority Labour government territory if we're taking seats like that. So I think you have to look at the spread of where the votes are that we're winning. You have to look at what the map looks like. And I think that shows that this is an incredibly strong foundation for us as we look ahead to the general election.
And yet this could be a high watermark for you, couldn't it, given the fact that the economy is set to improve between now and a general election and inflation to come down?
Well, look, the cost of living is the #1 issue facing voters all over the country. And I think it's so telling that the Tories didn't spend a single day talking about the cost of living crisis. And that's because they crashed the economy in autumn of last year. Rishi Sunak doesn't know how to fix it. And on the major issue of the day, the Tories have had nothing to say. And I think that's a real tell for what they are presenting to voters. Meanwhile, we've got an alternative, a positive plan on things that we would be doing to help people with the #1 issue that's facing them.
When you say a positive plan, and yet a lot of the campaign has involved Labour attacking the Tories, not least in those controversial online ads specifically targeting Rishi Sunak. I mean, there seems to be a lot of reasons that Labour's putting forward for not voting Tory, but how clear a picture are we actually getting about what Labour would do?
Well, firstly, I'm making no apologies for holding the Tories robustly to account for their track record over 13 years in government that have led to failure in a whole range of areas, including the criminal justice system, but also on the economy, which they crashed in autumn and for which they've got no answers. But you're right, we are also focusing on the things that we are saying we would do in government, both now and also if we win the next general election, to ease the pressure that's on families with the cost of living crisis.
But is that clear? I mean, the Tories have been calling Sir Keir Starmer a flip-flop, haven't they? Because he's backtracked on a few of his promises. Just this week, we've seen a climb down on his promise to abolish student tuition fees.
Well, Keir has made it very clear we're not going to make any promises at the general election in our manifesto that we cannot keep. And the changed economic circumstances, partly as a result of the Tories crashing the economy in autumn last year do mean that we have to make different choices, and some things that we might have wanted to do a couple of years ago or more are no longer going to be possible. So I think it's actually being open and upfront and honest with the electorate about what is and what is not going to be feasible, and what his priorities for government are going to be, which are about getting the economy growing to get us out of this doom loop of stagnation that the Tories have got us in, getting that economy growing, sorting out our public services and helping families with the cost of living crisis.
What do you think is bringing back voters to Labour from places that went Tory in 2019 in the results so far? Is it simply that Keir Starmer isn't Jeremy Corbyn?
It's the combination of 13 years of Tory failure and having a credible alternative in Keir Starmer, in the Labour Party under Keir Starmer. I've been hearing from voters in Stoke, where I've spent quite a lot of time over the last couple of weeks, people who left us for the first time in 2019, but who can see that under Keir's leadership, the Labour Party has changed, that it's, interested in those people again, in their concerns, and that we are speaking to the concerns that voters have, and that we have a plan to deal with those concerns as well. So it's a combination of all of those things, which is why I think it's such a good and solid set of results for us as we look ahead to the next general election.